building soldier, of course, James Creedon on the other side of the studio. Good to see you, sir.
Likewise, Mark.
Taking up the mantle on Grexit. What have you got?
All right, well, will Greece lead a rush to the exits in Europe? This is a piece in Slate.com by Joshua Keating, and he's looking at how, despite most of the heads of state of Europe and the major political parties are all in favour of finding a solution to this, there are a lot of anti-establishment parties around Europe who are almost rubbing their hands together at the prospect of a Greek exit. You've got increasingly influential Eurosceptic parties on both the right and the left. So this article looks at that particular side of things. You've got the leftist anti-austerity Podemos party. They've organised a rally in Madrid, Mark, ahead of the referendum in Greece, with demonstrators chanting "Viva Greece" and "We are all Greeks." And you've got various other parties around Europe as well of a similar persuasion. And they point out even right-wing parties such as the National Front in France who would be happy to see a challenge to the authority of Brussels in this Brexit actually taking place. So there's a lot of internal support in Europe as well from the fringes for Tsipras. The Greek events are also being closely watched in Moscow, points out the article, where Alexis Tsipras was welcomed a month ago at an economic forum in St. Petersburg, much to the chagrin of Brussels. And Putin has been cultivating ties with anti-establishment parties throughout Europe, from the far right to the left. So it is very much interesting to watch how all of this is playing out. It's interesting in this
chaos, so many people trying to seek some sort of advantage, trying to find some kind of way forward. It's very interesting, isn't it?
You had the Turkish Prime Minister as well today saying that they were happy to help in any way they could, which I'm not sure if people in Athens necessarily wanted to hear.
Indeed.
A quick look at an article in Salon.com as well, where David Dayan is saying at least a referendum will provide some clarity, because what's going on in Greece at the moment is a lot of internal contradictions. On the one hand, they don't want austerity, yet they want to stay in the Eurozone. And if they stay in the Eurozone, the institutions that are there are making austerity a forced mandate. So there is a contradiction, and at least a referendum would go some way to clarifying things one way or the other, Mark.
OK, Mark is going to cock his ear for this next one, I'm sure. The anti-austerity economist Joseph Stiglitz has...
Well, that's right. A lot of people saying that austerity, in some senses, is what has contributed to the Greek economy being in the very poor situation it is. And with, I think he had statistics, I'm not sure if I have them in front of me now, but that, in other words, it has contributed to the poor state of the Greek economy now. Of course, that's a moot point, and it's always debatable. But he's very critical of Brussels, as he has been throughout this austerity debate. They seem to believe that they can eventually bring down the Greek government by bullying it into accepting an agreement that contravenes its mandate. So they point out that, democratically speaking, Syriza was elected on an anti-austerity platform. All they're doing now in terms of proposing this referendum is actually providing a choice to the people. Do we stay true to that mandate or not? And in fact, he says in this article that if the government were simply fulfilling its campaign promises, it would already have rejected the proposal. It wouldn't be even opening it up to...
It begs the question, do the politicians or do the economists actually, run the world, rule the world? It's one of those issues, isn't it? Is it the sort of the moneyed families, as some people say, said the 60 families in the United States rule the world, apparently, some people say, Is it about them? Is it about... people's democratic votes? Does Marcus Carlson have a bigger say than anybody else? I don't know. What do you think, Marcus?
Well, I think a lot of all the critics against Joseph Stiglitz would say that a referendum or a vote doesn't create more money. Right. That's essentially the problem. It doesn't actually change the fundamentals, and the fundamental position is that Greece doesn't have a lot of money.
Right. No, so it's really a lot of different points of view in it. One other piece that I thought was interesting, and we're seeing a lot of this, a lot of these anti-austerity pages in any case are linking to this, the power of forgiveness, and how German debt was in fact forgiven in 1953 at a conference in London. Something like 65%.
That's an interesting point, isn't it? That's an interesting point.
62.5% of its debt accrued between the wars and after the war was forgiven.
That's and
that was all.
Shouldn't we forget about the Second World War in 2015? Isn't it time to kind of move on from that?
To move on. But I guess it did allow Germany to rebuild its economy. In any case, another point, perhaps funny, or is it even funny? Some people are saying that it's not funny at all. There has been a crowdfunding effort, Mark.
Crowdfunding.
To bail out the Greek economy.
They'll need more than €250,000, won't they?
They will. Well, I think they need 1.6 billion, is it? Or yes,
1.6 billion.
So we're getting there, but perhaps not not quite as quickly as this is the Huffington Post's take on it. It's depressing as it sounds. Others are saying if the banks won't pay or help them, then the people will. Hashtag crowdfund Greece.
We'll see. James, thank you very much indeed. James Crew, the Media Watch, Marcus Carson with The Business, and thank you, of course, at home for watching us. Stay with us, more news to come.